Hi, everyone. I am Nisa, and I'll be co-hosting this studio tour with Julia today. Julia actually joined the program last year. Wow, it's been a long time. So she joined the program last year in 2019, and Julia's work investigates the notions of empathy, embodiment, and the fluidity of the self through performance, video, and installation. So Julia is going to speak about her practice, speak about her residency and the things that she is doing. So without further ado, welcome to the Zoom room, Julia.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks everyone who joined today. I'm going to talk a bit about a current project that I'm working on, which came out of a performance piece of mine. So it's sort of like a piece that merges my performance work and some of my somatic work. So I have a background in movement and somatic practices. And for those of you who don't know what somatics is, it's a practice of sort of connecting with your body from the inside out. So there's a lot of techniques you can learn to connect to, like, say, your organs or your bones. You can get really detailed with the kind of interior spaces of your body. So it's really based in sensation. So just that's like a tiny little background on some of more of the research behind my work. I'm going to start with a little exercise, actually, just to kind of introduce you to how just kind of the general practice that I have with somatics. We're going to do just the tiniest little exercise for our eyes. So the eye exercise is an exercise to loosen the muscles around your eyes. And I'm just going to do this as a tiny exercise since we're all looking at screens so much these days. So basically, like, the muscles around your eyes are connected to parts of your brain through your optic nerve. And these parts of the brain are associated with your fight or flight impulses. So the eyes are actually really connected to stress and your fight or flight impulse. So looking, and then the tension in your eyes is caused by looking at short distances. So basically, looking at a screen all day is going to cause tension, which is going to cause your body to be in sort of a state of fight or flight or stress. This is something that I have developed into like a workshop that I've done with art students to sort of look at our eyes from a different perspective. So instead of just thinking of our eyes as, looking out at the world and just taking in this information, sort of flipping that over so we are actually able to manipulate our eyes to change our own perception. So, thinking of our eyes in a more malleable way. So just a real quick exercise is to just put the palms of your hands over your eyes. If people want to do this, you can. If you don't, that's all right as well. So you just put them over your eyes, put your head down, and keep your eyes open. So it's going to be dark, but your eyes are going to be open. And you can just rest like that for, we'll do for like 30 seconds or so. If you're doing this at home, you can do it for a few minutes at a time. And you can put your head so that it's sort of facing down. So you're really thinking of like releasing all the tension out into your hands. Okay, so whenever you feel ready, you can take them off and see if your eyes feel any different. They might not. Usually a bit of a longer time is good for that. That's something you can do at home. as just a little trick.
I actually have a question for you. So this is a personal question.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that, I wrote the contract, but I know that you're doing work on the pavilion. Can you explain to me what you are doing on the pavilion and what the purpose of that work is?
Yeah, so that was going to be my next explanation here.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm going to see if I can talk while I send this email. I'm currently doing a project on the pavilion of Atlanta Contemporary. So it's outdoors, and it's sort of this one-on-one offering that I'm doing, that I'm teaching basically private lessons one-on-one for people to learn this work that I've used in my performances in the past. I was going to introduce the work as it was as a performance first, and then I'll go into the one-on-one component that I'm doing. This is the piece as it functioned as a performance, and this was performed last year. This is in London. This was part of a gallery show that we had a public component of the work that we performed outside in the streets, outside the gallery. So in my opinion, this is like the best context for this piece, to be out on the streets. So this is this two-person breathing bag that I created. So two people blow it up together, and then it becomes actually more of a movement piece. So I'm going to show some videos in a bit, because the movement is a really important part of it. That piece is called Collective Breath, and I've performed it in various iterations. That is the most recent performance I've done with it. So just showing the other context. So we were actually spanning, if you look across the street from where this image is taken, that was actually where the gallery was. So we kind of took up the whole span of across the street and right in front of the gallery. We had, a few different pairs of people performing it. And this is the last one I'm going to show from that one. Just showing the context with the bystanders on the street. So these two men were actually really disturbed by the piece, and were in this moment trying to make a phone call to call for help. They thought the performers were in need. So that was an interesting moment that happened there.
I am curious to know the people who were concerned about this performance. This is obviously before COVID-19, but I'd like to know what the reaction overall was for the onlookers of this piece, just because I feel as if the context in which it's being done now has drastically changed. So in my personal opinion, there may be more people who are disturbed. So what was it before? And then we can get into the after once you're ready. Yeah,
I guess I didn't clarify that. This was definitely pre-COVID. Most people were not that disturbed as those guys were. That was kind of an interesting reaction, because I think it was pretty clear to the rest of the people it was a performance. But I think most other people were very curious and stayed and stopped, if they're passing by, stopped and watched for quite a long time. The piece is really slow. I'm going to show some videos that will show more of the movement and the pace of it. So it was really quite a contrast to that busy downtown environment. So yeah, it did really stop people, and they stayed and they watched and asked questions if they found people to ask questions about it. So yeah, it was quite an interactive piece in the end. Basically, during this year with COVID and everything, I was really thinking about that piece a lot, because it's about breath, because it seemed, the two-person one seemed like so dangerous in such a different way than it did when I originally made it. And also I had taught like a workshop with that performance, and that aspect of teaching people how to do it and experience it for themselves was something that kept coming back to me during this year. And I was thinking, I think this piece could actually really help people right now. So Yeah, so just recently I kind of got everything together to start doing these one-on-one lessons with the work. There we go. So that's the first one. So these are really, they're 45 minutes long. So it's a nice amount of time to work with someone and teach them basically the practice of performing this. Because it's quite an experience to perform it. So in these lessons, I kind of go into some of my background in somatic movements, and I also have a background in body work. One of the types I practice is called craniosacral work, which works with the fluid systems of the body. So these are some images from one of the participants of the lessons. So we are, physically distanced while we're doing this. I have like my own bag that I'm showing them how it works. And we go over how to breathe into the tube. The tube is actually made of a small little breathing piece that's made of bamboo, and then it's a plastic bag. So it's quite simple. So, but you breathe out through your mouth, you breathe in through your nose in this kind of continual cycle. So you don't need to take your mouth off of the mouthpiece. So that takes a little practice to learn how to do that. And then as the bag starts inflating with the breath, you can start kind of following that movement with your body. And it becomes, there's some practices that work with, it's called embryonic breathing. So it's sort of this thinking of yourself more as an embryo, like in fluid, and thinking of that breath coming from your whole body, not just your lungs. So we kind of work with some of that. We work with thinking about the lungs kind of coming from the back of the body as well. Oftentimes I think we just think of our lungs in the front of our body, but they're actually, quite three-dimensional and go all the way to our back. So I go over some of that in the lesson, and people have time to practice this. So just a few images from people, and then I'm going to take a little more time to show a video. So this will show the movement. This piece really helps to like physicalize like a breathwork practice and give you this kind of point of contact, physical touch and contact. So I was thinking about this a lot during this year for people who might be isolated, people who are missing that physical contact with others. So it's really becomes like a second body, and it's your own breath. So it's kind of an interesting relationship between, it becomes like a relationship with yourself in a way. Here's another one and these I'm doing right outside the Atlanta Contemporary in the pavilion, outdoor pavilion there. Yeah, so this piece is really good for anything like anxiety, overwhelm. So through the breath work, but also through like the physical contact, it really helps regulate the nervous system. So it's like part performance, part therapeutic practice. And I've also been doing a couple of these through Zoom for people who aren't in Atlanta. So it's kind of an interesting form of my practice to take this piece and make it more intimate in a way, and these really one-on-one sessions with people. Um,
Julia, I have a quick
yeah,
question from
yeah.
Sarah Peterson, who asked, are
Mhm.
you just working with one person at a time on the pavilion right
Mhm.
now? And so can you explain a lot of the logistics? How many people are you working with? How many materials are you using? Are you sharing these materials? Are you sanitizing them? Are
Mhm.
there social distancing? Like, let's understand the logistics behind it a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. I'll pop back on here. Yeah, I being careful about making the pieces in like a sanitized space, wearing gloves, making sure everything's clean, and then I put them in, a package that I seal up right after I make them, so they stay clean and sanitized. And so far, I've just been doing the ones in the pavilion with one person, so it's just me and one other person, and it's quite a big space, so we can be distanced. Yeah. I think there would be enough room on the pavilion to do it with a couple of people. And I have put that out there that if people should contact me if they want to do it with more than one person, and we'll kind of work it out. But I've been really enjoying actually just the one-on-ones, because it's just really much more personal and intimate, and it's more of like a teaching context in that way. So they can practice. I can, kind of help them adjust in a way and give them suggestions, and they practice again. I also do like a demonstration at the beginning, because I think often the best way to learn how to do this piece is to watch someone do it. Yeah.
So are you doing it at the same time that the participant is doing it, or are you walking them through it without giving them visual representation?
I do both. I give a little explanation, and then I give a little demonstration, and then I talk some more. I demonstrate some more. They try it out. It's pretty fluid, and we kind of switch back and forth. I can show one more. This is of me. This is like of me demonstrating it. I can show a quick video, and then I think we should stop for questions, for any more questions people might have. Let's see if this works. And speaking to kind of this like relationship with the self through the bag, um, I was also learning about it's called developmental movement. It's kind of part of the somatic movement practice, but they were talking a lot about how as babies, you need contact with something in order to feel your own sense of self and develop a sense of self. So I thought that was really interesting in context of this piece. It's like it's yourself in another object, but you need that other to be in yourself, if that makes sense. So yeah, I kind of explained some of these little pieces that I've been learning about and picking up and bringing into the work in the lessons.
All right. So I have one question for you, Julia, which is, how does your studio play a part in your practice? So you mentioned a lot of things happening outside as you navigate this new world. How has your studio, your physical space in the studio, affected your practice or not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I continue to have more of a, not like a strictly studio-based practice. So often my studio will be a place where it becomes more of an office or a place to store materials or to make, this piece requires making the plastic bag objects. So it functions in that way where I'll make make things that I need, materials that I need for the work, or use it as office. But, you know, a lot of my work, I think, comes alive more so outside of the studio. And I'm really interested in working in other contexts, other environments that influence the work and bring a different context to the work. You know, so I can't do this work inside my studio, the performance work. So it often takes place outside, and it often takes place in, not always, but sometimes in public spaces. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Julia, for sharing your practice and for sharing more of what you have been doing as far as adapting to this new world as it relates to your intimate practice. So thank you all for coming, and I'll see you at the next one.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Julia.